Deborah, it is Thanksgiving week, and I love asking you questions about your childhood because I wasn't there for your childhood. You were there for my childhood, but I wasn't there for yours. So I like asking you things like, what was your best Thanksgiving memory growing up? And a lot of people are going to say to themselves, wow, I wonder if Kevin's setting Deb up for something here. I'm not. This is just a genuine question, me asking my mother some of the best Thanksgiving memories she had prior to me, because clearly all of her favorite Thanksgiving memories, all the top 37 of them, involve me. But prior to me, what were some of your favorite Thanksgiving memories?
I mean, Kev, I can hardly remember them. I mean, they're so insignificant.
Because they were so bad without me.
Exactly. But I want to say, I don't know if other people my age feel this way, but I mean, they kind of blur together. Like if I think about
Totally
different houses we lived in, I can separate them that way. But I will tell you, my grandparents lived in Cherry Grove, Oregon, and we went down there one Thanksgiving, and they had a farm. They had a really big house, and my recollection is that all my aunts and uncles were there, maybe with the exception of my uncle Dudley, who lived in Alaska. He was not there. And my Uncle Roy, who lived in Oklahoma. But everybody that was in Washington or Oregon was there.
got it.
Now, my mom had 8 sisters,
That's a lot.
3 brothers, and 2 were not there. So just one brother. You know, the sisters were all married, so the men and women thing equaled out pretty much in the end.
Got it.
But it's a lot of women in the kitchen.
It's a lot of women in the kitchen.
And it's my grandmother's kitchen.
And I imagine it's not a big kitchen by any stretch of the imagination.
Actually, pretty good sized kitchen.
Oh, nice.
My grandmother had a huge wood stove that originally I remember we cooked on. You know, there was kindling.
Yep.
My grandpa put it in the thing, it lit, and I mean, that's what she cooked on. Then I can remember that there was this huge event. I have no idea what it was, but the siblings, her children, bought her an electric stove.
Oh.
And they tried to talk her into getting rid of the wood stove, and she was having none of it. So there were 2 stoves there, and there was still plenty of room in the kitchen. It was a good sized room. So I always really, I loved my grandma's. It felt really safe to me. When the house was full, they had like an upstairs that really wasn't finished, but kind of finished, 3 rooms, but big rooms. And there were like wrought iron beds with quilts everywhere. So everybody got a bed. We were all together.
Was there a kids' table?
There would have been a kids' table, yes.
How many kids at that kids' table, knowing that there was 8 couples minimum? How many kids, how much ruckus, how much chaos was sat at that table?
Well, I think we were all spanked, so maybe not too much ruckus.
Clearly, domestic violence was approved
was
back then. Yeah.
Well, I think some of the kids, I think we sat in the kitchen because there was a big kitchen table.
Okay.
There was a dining room table as well.
Got it.
But I think what ended up happening, maybe a couple of card tables got added to the kitchen table. And it was set nice. I mean, we,
Sure.
With linens.
Oh,
and
so
stuff.
you guys actually got to sit with the adults.
Nope, we sat in the kitchen.
Oh.
We sat in the kitchen like the servants.
Sat in the kitchen, which is ironic because
Yeah.
you would think you wouldn't want the kids where all the danger could possibly be.
We weren't allowed in there until it was time to eat.
Got it.
I mean, for sure, we were running around outside and running around upstairs and probably getting yelled at by our moms and everything.
Checks out.
But I remember the dining room table was beautiful. And I do remember thinking, I can't wait till I'm old enough to sit in there, right?
Yeah.
And sadly, they moved out of that house probably before I ever got to really officially sit in there.
So then you probably had, did you ever do a one-on-one Thanksgiving with Barbara, or did you always have extended family?
Oh, no. I did a lot of one-on-ones with Barbara.
Did you look forward to that?
Yeah. I remember thinking my mom was a good cook. She could usually hold it together pretty well on a holiday.
Got it. Did she teach you any, because you are great at the pre-prep. You are good at making sure that Thanksgiving Day is an easy carry because everything is prepared and really just needs to be baked. Did she teach you that, or did she teach you that through not teaching you that?
She taught me that through not teaching that, because she was like, okay, I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Unbelievable.
And put that turkey in the oven And oh dear God, here, peel some potatoes. I mean, but that's what everybody did then. People didn't prep.
But that
way
is
back
so
then.
weird to me because I just assumed that like everybody in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, even 70s, just made casseroles. That was the way people consumed food, with layers in a
Right.
big baking dish.
Right.
So it's weird that people wouldn't know that you can make that ahead of time, bake it the day of, and it's going to be fine. Like, it's already where it needs to be for the
I
most part, but
know.
I don't understand the idea that everybody needed to say, if we don't make it on Thanksgiving,
It's
it's
not
not
good.
good.
So, I mean, I don't know about a lot of other families because I really was just, I could have been with Aunt Jenny and Uncle Walt. I
Yeah.
could have been with, some other relatives. The thing that I remember loving about Thanksgiving at my grandma's is there were like, 10 women cooking, right? So everything was a breeze. I mean, everybody just took a part of it, right? And broke it apart.
I'll be honest with you, that sounds like a nightmare to me. That many people in one kitchen. I don't like it when you and dad are in the kitchen and I'm making a very simple breakfast and we have a big kitchen.
Yeah.
I can't fathom. And I'm sure the kitchen wasn't as big as you thought it was as a kid, but even let's assume that's even bigger for a house that was built in the 20s, 30s, or 40s. That many people in that much space cooking that big of a meal, that in and of itself would ruin Thanksgiving for me.
Yeah. I mean, well, but you would have been a kid and you would have been running around out in Walnut.
Oh, no. I'm
Creek
just saying if I was
yeah.
having to participate in it, now granted, I would have been a man and they wouldn't have let me in the kitchen. They would have been like, you go back and shoot guns and smoke your cigarettes and pull those tab beers.
So that's for sure. You were not allowed in the kitchen, right? I mean, I have no recollection of the men until dinner showed up,
Yeah.
right? And kids just running crazy, and it was November in Oregon. It was probably raining, but we could have been shoot outside. That certainly could have happened.
Did you ever have an idea, a dream, a wish, a hope of what a Thanksgiving would be? Like, I picture in my head, and this is maybe just singular to me or other males my age have once thought, man, wouldn't it be fun to play like touch football in nice sweaters with the leaves rustling in the background and Mama May ringing the bell telling you it's time for Thanksgiving dinner and everybody just putting their arms around each other and it being this big spread with, like no more than 12 people, but this raucous, fun, yet, even keel family event. I've had that idea in my head, but I have spent Thanksgiving with a family that size. And it sucks.
Okay, so let me say this. We're definitely not a Hyannisport or Cape Cod family.
And
okay?
I wish we were just for that single holiday.
Agreed. I will say, the only thing that I really remember, I mean, I'm sure there was like, I don't know, Red Book or Good Housekeeping magazine or something that would have had something like that. But you just have to remember, Kev, there just wasn't the media like that, So
Fair.
if people were doing that, I mean, I certainly didn't know. I do remember in elementary school knowing the Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving picture.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like my grandmother's table looked like that.
Oh, that's good.
Like I could relate that. That was relatable to me.
Yeah.
As far as the whole football thing and stuff like that, I mean, all my boy cousins were athletes. I mean, that could have been happening, but they wouldn't have let us play. I mean,
For sure not.
they would have shooed the girls away.
Sexist.
I know. But I mean, I think it was fun. I think it was good food. I think we enjoyed each other. I mean, if I look back, I look at these women now through adult eyes. I know there had to be some snarling under breath and stuff like that.
Do you think they drank during it?
No, not at my
really?
grandmother's house. Never.
Nobody got to drink at grandma's house?
If my grandmother was there was no alcohol. If my grandmother was present. So there was no alcohol, except my grandfather had a wood shed where he chopped wood and stored it.
That's where all the men were?
There was a bottle back behind the wood.
Oh, I think you told that story, yeah.
And, but that was like, shh.
Got it.
But no, I think that my recollection is that people behaved, that people were nice, that it was pleasant. I do remember periodically worrying about Barbara fitting in. I mean, even with her own family.
It's more or less a constant worry, though, if you've ever listened to this podcast.
Yeah. But my mom, I think my mom did a good job too. But I mean, I just remember feeling like women worked so hard. It was always, like it is like I had to walk to school a mile in the snow.
Uphill both ways.
Uphill both ways. That's kind of what I recollect Thanksgiving dinner. I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's a 20-pound turkey. Took all day to cook. That's kind of what I remember it being, too.
I think I speak for everyone when I say 20 plus people with kids running around and no booze sounds like the worst Thanksgiving in the world. Let's start the podcast.
Welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. One is a Harvard Business School alum. The other is her son, discussing business, pop culture, family, and everything in between. Now here are your hosts, Deb and Kev.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Deb and Kev podcast. Across from me is the woman who's the gluten-free sausage stuffing of our podcast. It's my mom, Deb.
I'm Deb.
And of course, you know that makes me the turkey. I'm her son, Kev, and this is our podcast. On today's show, we are down to 4 bakers in the tent, and we'll talk all about the gut-wrenching bakes that happened this week on the Great British Bake Off. Eavesdropping on Deb's phone call brought us today's business segment, and we'll call it Change is Hard. Is it ease or eavesdropping?
I think it's eavesdropping.
E-A-V-E-S or E-A-S-E? Don't even look it up. I'm just curious what your opinion is.
I think it's eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping.
That's what I think.
Eavesdropping on Deb's phone call brought us today's business segment, and we'll call it Change is Hard. We have some Thanksgiving-themed Would You Rather questions and, like leftover turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, and gravy put in a spinach tortilla, we'll wrap this episode up with what we are thankful for and what's for dinner. But first, I went to get my flu shot recently.
Okay.
I went to Sam's Club. We know the pharmacists there, and we know the people who work in the pharmacy, and they're all extremely nice. I always find it weird that we're friends with pharmacists because that means you and Dad go there way too much that they know you.
But we are actually almost, I could say Costco and Sam's Club, like they greet us by name. We know them. We've gone out to dinner with them.
VIP.
Yeah.
You are VIP.
for sure.
You are very important pharmacist people. You're VIPP.
Yeah.
You're very important pharmacist patients / people. So I went there midday. It was a free-for-all. There was at least 10 people milling around, carts askew, the women in the back doing everything that they could to keep up, and they all had very nice spirits about everything that was happening.
Even though it was like
chaos,
a what show out front.
Totally. And there was no like stanchions. There was no like wait in this line, fill this out. Like you kind of walked up and you looked around and you were like, oh, this is just total like controlled chaos for a little bit. So then you go to one window and they say, hey, how can I help you? I said, I'm here for a shot. They're like, oh, you need to go down to the other window. I go down to the other window. I'm like kind of waiting behind somebody who I think is also kind of waiting. And then it took a minute for him to be like, oh, I'm not waiting anymore. I said, oh, okay. And then I have to look at this guy to my left who also might be waiting. Yeah. And I was like, are you in line? He's like, oh no, are you in line? I said, well, I'm going to get a form. He's like, oh, I'm going to get a form too. So we were just standing, staring at the glass, waiting for somebody to do something.
Being flu friends.
But we had to do something. So I walk up there and they hand me the clipboard and she says, are you here for COVID or are you here for a flu shot? I said, flu shot. I fill out all the necessary stuff. I have insurance this year, so it was free. I hand the form back to the woman and she says, okay, we'll be with you. I'm not kidding you. There are like 7 people just sitting, 3 or 4 more just milling around. There are carts full of stuff that are just like there is absolutely no structure to anything that's happening. Like people are just walking around and everybody's doing that thing of like kind of looking at everybody. Nobody's calm, nobody's cool, nobody's collected. And I'm thinking like it is 2:30 on a Thursday. Like what is happening, right? So eventually they call a bunch of people and the woman who's doing the shots is taking them in like 2 at a time because it looks like some of these people are in the same group, right? And kudos to them for identifying people who are together. And they also have 2 little stations, so you can go to the left or you can go to the right. And I think probably the chaos on there, and I keep saying chaos, but the confusion on their end is we're having to pull out COVID shots, we're having to pull out flu shots, and wouldn't it be great if everybody was just getting flu shots, and wouldn't it be great if everybody was just getting COVID shots? But it's literally a mix and match. So I would say after 20 minutes of me walking around the pharmacy, grabbing some emergency, grabbing some razors, staring at all the hair care products, wondering if it's worth $50 for this moisturizing cream. I didn't buy it. They finally called my name.
Well, $50 for moisturizing cream at Sam's Club?
I was so bored, I was willing to pull the trigger on it. Because then in my head, I was like, if it's $50 here, it must be $75 somewhere else. I didn't do it.
Maybe.
So she calls my name and she brings me over to the left side and she says, hey, are you here for a flu shot or a COVID shot? And I said, I feel like that should be on my chart, but let's double check. And I just said, I'm here for a flu shot. And in my hand, I have my emergency and I have my razors, which there's nothing more American than getting an inoculation while carrying grocery products.
I agree.
So she says, what arm, left arm or right arm? And I said, oh, I don't know. Is there a preference? And she goes, typically, I don't like to use my dominant arm. So I said, okay, give me a shot on the left. I say to her, I said, hey, when do I qualify for getting my booster shot? It's been over 6 months. And she's like, oh, well, I mean, you can get it whenever you want. I said, oh, okay, cool. I'll be able to swing back next week. I'll grab the booster. And she goes, do you want to do it today?
Did you have your booster card with you?
I said, can I do it today? Because I'm getting my flu shot. Is that okay? Can we like mix vaccines? Is this just like, a drink situation? Like, are we not supposed to drink beer before wine or liquor, all that kind of stuff?
I'm curious.
And she goes, I don't see why not. And I said, okay, well, I don't have my card. And she's like, we'll fill out your card for you. And then if you want, you can bring back the other card and we'll fill out a whole new card for you so that it shows all three of them. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, this is going to be the best decision because you know me, I like things to be thorough. I don't want to have to do trips more than once. So it's like bang, bang, both arms. Let's do it. But then I'm like, am I going to be ground zero for this new strain of COVID because I'm getting the flu shot and the COVID booster at the exact same time? She was super stoked on it. She's like, I actually have a new vial of Pfizer that I'm getting out for all these other people. So this fits perfectly with what I'm trying to do. And as somebody who recognizes not wanting to waste anybody else's time, I'm like, sure, let's do it. So she comes back. And again, I reiterate to her, I say, is this a problem? Because now I've worked myself up. I said, are we sure this is not going to be a problem? She's like, no, you'll be absolutely fine. I said, because if I come back with an arm growing out of my head, I'm going to be very upset with you. And she goes, that's fair. I'll listen to you if you have an arm growing out of your head. I said, okay, fair enough.
There you go.
So she gives me the shot on the left. I would say that the flu shot itself hurt more going in. She gave me a shot on the right, and they have those new Band-Aids where they put it on beforehand. They puncture through it, so then they don't have to put a Band-Aid on over it. So she double popped me. I was able to check out at the pharmacy with all of my stuff, which was really nice. I was wearing a tank top, so I just had double guns of the Band-Aids showing.
Yeah, you look like a tough guy.
That I'm a true alpha male. And this is what I don't understand. I've gotten the flu shot for years, right?
You're good about getting a flu shot.
20 plus years.
Yeah.
I feel like enough people have said that the COVID vaccine messes with them that I just get it in my head now that it's going to mess with me. This is the third shot. The first time, nothing, literally nothing. The second time, I think I hindered my progress by feeling a little achy, then going and working out and making it far worse. But then I ate a lot of salty foods and I felt infinitely better. I got home, I made some food, I felt totally fine. In those moments where I feel like I'm gonna be sick, you know what I turn to? I turn to sweets. Isn't that weird?
Like a little sugar will back it back down or something?
That's what I think, is that sugar's going to help me. So I eat.
Let me say something to the listening audience. I wasn't home while all of this was happening.
True.
So I couldn't have helped. I would have been a good mother and I would have helped, but obviously I couldn't.
Fast forward to the next day where I honestly, I was fine throughout the remainder of that day. I kind of woke up a few times in my sleep feeling a little achy. And then I woke up the next morning and I was a little run down and I was definitely achy at that point. I took some ibuprofen, I ate some food. I tried to eat more sweets. And this boost stayed with me a little longer than the second COVID shot did. But again, the very next day, totally fine.
Okay.
But I was curious, and I don't know even if you have these answers. Isn't the booster still aren't you still supposed to be in like a qualifying group, or do you just get to walk up and be like, yo, can I get some of that, dog?
Well, okay, so I don't know, but I will tell you this. While you were doing that, I think I was in Mexico City.
Okay.
And I was at dinner one night with, there was one family of 5, but there were probably 10 people around the table. They had all gotten Moderna shots in the US, and they had all gotten their boosters, Moderna. And every single one of them got sicker than a dog.
Oh, wow.
Not with 1 and 2, but with number 3. All out flu, cramps, nausea, chills. The whole typical flu.
Oh, wow.
24 hours, ring the bell, it's over.
Yeah.
But they all talked about how miserable it was. So I came home and I read an article, and it was the guy I think that's in charge of the COVID stuff at Johns Hopkins.
Okay.
And he was talking about, because he was reporting that the Moderna people with their 3rd vaccination seem to be really having a pretty severe side effect for 24 hours.
Got it.
Right? It's hard to get the shot believing that that's going to happen.
But you had your second shot and you were absolutely fine.
First shot, no problem. Second shot, no problem. And really not even a sore arm.
Yeah.
So the guy at Johns Hopkins said that he thinks the efficacy on Moderna is a little stronger than Pfizer. Okay. So he said, in fact, he was going to do this himself. He's going to get the 3rd shot of Pfizer.
Oh, he's going to mix?
He's going to mix.
Oh, my geez.
So I've decided if he's going to mix, I'm going to mix.
Oh, geez.
But here's what happens.
Now Deb's going to be ground zero for the new strain.
Now that I know you can walk into Sam's Club and just get the shot.
Totally.
And I'm just going to say Pfizer, because I've tried to make an appointment at CVS. I tried to make an appointment at Costco.
Yeah.
And it made me put down like Moderna.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to do that. I just want to go into Sam's Club and lie and say Pfizer. Do you think I'm going to die?
Well, here's the thing. You're asking the wrong person, because I already rolled the dice with my own life, having absolutely no frame of reference for what I was doing. I texted my group of friends back east. One of them happens to be a doctor. I said I'm getting them simultaneously. It was only after I got both shots that I read my friend's text message that said, ideally, you'll get the flu shot and then wait 2 months or 2 weeks for the booster, or vice versa. I'm still alive and kicking. So I think that might be a certain demographic that should do that, or that's just like being very precautious. Like I said, I've had no ill effects. I felt absolutely fine the next day because I knew I wasn't feeling bad, but I just felt normal. I somehow felt even better, right? I would love for you to go 2/3 Moderna, 1/3 Pfizer, and just report back to us. At the same time, this is going to be a really weird podcast if half of the hosts die.
So I repeated this story to 2 of my friends that were ready to go get their shots. And we're actually planning their Moderna shots to be ill, around trips. And I said, hey, see if they'll give you the Pfizer. I told them the whole story. Yeah. They both asked for the Pfizer. They both got the Pfizer, and they're both fine. I'm going for the Pfizer. For sure.
Maybe that's where we're at with COVID. People are just excited that other people are getting the booster. So they're like, whatever you want. It's a grab bag. We'll give you a little bit of both. We'll jiggle the vial up in front of you, and we'll throw a little flu shot in there too. And if you don't want smallpox, bam, we got a little juice for that as well.
Except I'll tell you, I have a very good friend who one year got, I think, a flu shot and a shingle shot together. Ended up in the hospital that night. I took her to the hospital. Sicker than a dog. Couldn't keep anything down. They had to put an IV in her. She was there for like 48 hours. So normally after watching that whole thing, I'm not advocating mixing things. But real quick, my flu shot. I wanted to get it before a trip. Yeah. CVS, full. Yeah. So CVS somewhere over by the old bowling alley that's closed, over there.
Yep. Love it.
I asked you, is there a CVS there? Remember I asked you?
There is above it.
Yeah. You said there was. Guess what? There's not.
Oh, what is it?
Well, it might be a CVS again, but right now it's nothing. It's under construction.
Oh, got it.
But guess what is there?
Starbucks.
A trailer.
Oh, okay.
No, a trailer, like a worker trailer.
Worse than Starbucks.
Like a construction trailer.
Are there people giving shots out of it?
That is a pharmacy that they're giving shots out. But guess the population up there is not the best. Like, it's kind of a homeless wandering ground.
Well, hey, as long as they're getting vaccinated.
Okay, so it's a little tiny No, I mean, it is a postage stamp. There is no privacy. They're violating every HIPAA thing in the world
Sure.
because you know what everybody's doing because it's so small.
Yeah.
It's a trailer. By the way, if people want real drugs, it's a trailer. Again, okay?
By hook or by crook, baby, get that vax.
So I want a shot. And I purposely thought, there's usually a little curtain or something they take behind you.
Nope.
Nope. I've got to pull my shirt down, showing everything to everybody.
Nice.
I got two guys yelling and screaming that, their prescription's not there. I've got this other woman that finally went out to her car. The pharmacist was literally screaming at people, be like this woman, make an appointment. I mean, it was a complete and utter debacle, but I hung in there. I got my flu shot. I'm telling you, that thing hurt like hell for 2 days.
Oh, wow.
I had a huge bruise. He wasn't good. It was in a trailer.
That's bad.
That's all I can say. So
I love this story that Deb assumed she went to a quote unquote pharmacy trailer and she went to like a makeshift meth lab. And she's like, I've had the most energy for weeks and I'm constantly scratching my neck, but I loved my flu shot.
Kevin, you drive over there. I can't believe that it's crazy to me. It's a trailer.
Here's what's crazy to me. You went in.
I did go in. Because
that's what's crazy.
Here's the thing. I'm a responsible citizen. I went online.
Debatable.
And I made an appointment.
Yeah, I didn't.
And so I felt like I had to keep it.
Yeah. I just milled around with the olds with my tank top until somebody said, you want to do both?
Yeah.
And I said, bet.
That's what I'm going to do at Sam's Club.
As
That's what
you
I'm
should.
gonna do. Yeah, for sure.
It's not often that we use your own clients as a resource for Deb's business segment, and we are in no way going to speak about who we're talking about.
But if they're listening, they'll know who they are.
Dun, dun, dun.
Just saying.
But I heard you talking to somebody the other day, and you were clearly not talking to the person in charge, but you were talking to somebody affiliated with your client, and they are clearly the go-between between the bosses and you.
Mm-hmm.
And you had worked yourself up to such a point where I was worried that you were going to somehow coax this person into either burning the building down or just having everybody walk up and walk out. Because you were upset on their behalf because they were trying to do right by the business, but the business owners were like, actually, we don't want you to do right by us. Just do what we're asking you to do in the most expeditious way possible, which has proven to yield awful results. Yet somehow they're still like, no, keep doing it that way. We want it done that way. And you were so upset. It was over multiple phone calls. And I said, this would be a fun segment for Deb's business segment. And here we are. We called it Change is Hard. And we call it Change is Hard is because oftentimes change needs to come from the top. And if the top doesn't recognize the need or the want for that change, well, it doesn't just become hard, it becomes almost impossible. And the people that struggle the most are the ones who are supposed to be implementing all of the asks and desires of management. Yet they're clearly between a rock and a hard place because they can't actually do what they're being asked of.
So this client, it's a group, we're not even going to say the industry, but it's a group where there are 5 partners.
Just assume they're a bunch of circus clowns.
Okay, 5 circus clowns.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to say that one of them for sure, and that's the one I work with a lot, knows how it should be.
Got it.
She has got it, okay? So her I can vouch for.
And as far as anybody knows, we're changing genders and we're changing positions. We're just making this up as we go. So you can't apply anything we're saying to anybody. You cannot pin us down.
Yes. So I often get hired to kind of fast track, some young person that needs to be developed. So there's this young guy and they want him to rise up quickly and gain some skills that he wouldn't otherwise have.
Got it.
Some of them are hiring type skills. And so love him. He's amazing. Okay. And he just, gobbles up everything I say, tries to implement it the right way. If he kind of gets weak and wants to go backwards, I just have to give him a little pep talk and he goes forward again. So we're to the place now that he really gets it and believes it. Right. So hiring right now is hard. And I'm going to say, especially if somebody is making in the $15 to $22 range, because, I mean, some people are flipping burgers making that much money.
True.
So then you want somebody that is more sophisticated than that, but they're in that price range. It's hard right now.
I heard that there's dishwashers on the California side of Tahoe that are making $25 an hour.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. So the market is very weird. We've just come off this unemployment thing. Then you have the Great Resignation. People ask me all the time, like, I mean, are we going to get good people for this? And my answer is a sound, I don't know.
I hope so.
I mean, I don't know. I hope so. I light candles and I say prayers for you every single night. Anyways, this place is having a tough time hiring.
Yep.
And, my constant mantra is don't lower the bar, don't settle. We'll find the right person. I know it's going to be hard. Pressure's on everybody. Let's keep people motivated and happy.
Yep.
I mean, do whatever you have to do. Be with them, be sympathetic to them, go out amongst the people, right? Do whatever you have to do to keep the culture healthy and alive and not toxic and, whatever you have to do. So this guy is working his tail off to try to do it this new way, new for their organization, right? And basically, I mean, the partners are just desperate, which I get it that they're desperate. I totally get it, but they're almost willing to hire anybody.
They're desperate for warm bodies.
But not anybody. Do you know what I mean? They'll kind of pick the fly shit out of the pepper on some of this stuff. Oops, sorry. They'll kind of pick, the fly shit out of the pepper on some of this stuff. And so then what ends up happening is, that one wasn't good enough because of this, and this one wasn't good enough because of that. And there have been some people that we have found that I think would last and that would do a great job. And then, they've been turned away because, for instance, they have a tattoo.
What?
Which my guy has tattoos.
Oh, okay.
So we already have people there with tattoos.
Now we're just setting double standards.
So, why aren't we going to resent the new person? I mean, and then the thought is, well, they showed their tattoo. Well, they were being themselves. They didn't hide the tattoo, right? And by the way, tattoos are okay here because you have never said they're not.
Right. And if somebody has worked here for 5 years and they're awesome, they're the best employee in the world, and they get a new tattoo and it's sentimental because a loved one died, are you telling them on Monday that they're fired?
Well, that wouldn't happen there because they're very kind that way.
But that's what I'm saying. If the policy is no tattoos, then it's no tattoos at any point.
Exactly. And or if we're starting the policy today and we say to the people that have tattoos, okay, you have to wear a sleeve, you have to cover that up, whatever, you do your rules.
Yep.
And then from now on, maybe we're not hiring people, with tattoos that show her. What we say is they have to be covered up. But it's just, he is so frustrated because I think he's excited to learn a new way. I think he's excited to bring a really positive, culture into their environment.
Sure.
I think that, he really cares deeply, and I mean deeply, about this business and about the owners and about, the people that he's managing. And I want to say cares so deeply that, just is torn. I mean, completely torn. And I want to say they need some people and they're really having a tough time. But we've set standards. If I say to somebody that sends me a resume, hey, could you call me at 3:00 on Friday? And they say, hey, that would be great. Let's talk at 3:00 on Friday. And then I never hear from them. Guess what they are to me? Dead. Okay? Now, if something happened and they pick up the phone on Monday and they say, I am so sorry. This thing happened. I was sick when I missed the call. Hey, Deb, please, could we have another call? That's a new conversation. But I will not pick the phone up and call them back because we had a date and they didn't call. They blew me off. And if they can blow me off in the hiring process, then they are going to blow me off when they work for me.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. So that's kind of what you heard was the frustration. And I felt like I was a little bit animated. I know that. But I felt like I needed to, he was so frustrated. I wanted to bond with him for a minute to say that I got it. I understood it. No, it wasn't necessarily right or fair. And yes, it was a detriment to our bigger thing we were trying to accomplish. However, I want to say to his credit, he said, but I love this place. I love this place. And I love the people. And, I'm going to work this out. But we had a moment. We had a moment.
So listen, we have talked about almost everything there is to talk about as it relates to business. And, you do a really good job of talking about management styles and people. And I mean, this is certainly feels like a managing up type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Suggesting up type thing. I don't remember the term we had coined, but when the expectation is so dramatically different than the result, where's the common ground? Meaning, the management group is asking you for this, but not giving you any of the tools to accomplish it, if not eroding it along the way. How can you possibly do your job if you're not going to literally overhaul the entirety of the process?
Well, I mean, it's very, very hard. And herein lies the biggest problem is, I suspect that, I mean, I don't know this, I'm just using this for an example, but I suspect that McDonald's has a pretty healthy turnover, right? People in and out, people in and out, people in and out. We all know that that is the most expensive thing a company will ever pay for is turnover, right? And when they're obviously always in that training thing. It's the thing that exhausts people and drives other people away. It's the thing that we want to avoid. We want people to stay somewhere for a while and make it their home, right? Which is why we talk about culture, which is why we talk about, doing nice things for our employees, we talk all the time about how do people learn, what kind of benefits are really important to people, how do they like to be treated, right?
Yep.
So for you and I, we get that, but some employers don't. All that we're trying to do in most cases is protect the business from constant turnover, because whether you call it a patient, a client, a customer, whatever you call it, we know that they get a better service from people that have been there for a while, right?
Yeah.
We also know that if we have a group of people that stay somewhere longer, right, the whole group tends to stay longer. I mean, the group affects the group,
right,
if you will, okay? And wouldn't we rather spend less money investing in our good people than spending more money? Because typically I have to offer more to that new person to get them in, right?
Right.
And the constant training. I mean, it's just a nightmare. But, depending on the industry, depending on the job, if you're not really attuned to those people, like I guess maybe a guy that owns McDonald's or owns 10 McDonald's isn't as attuned to the people. He's not on the floor cooking fries and doing all of that, right? So, maybe turnover doesn't bother him. He's just looking at the bottom. He's still making lots of money and working at the bottom, looking at the bottom line. I don't think that's the case with this group. I think the case with this group is that we have some generational differences in the partners, is what I think, and that's a struggle.
Give us an example about how you can potentially correct this, or just give us an example of anything in general. I don't care.
Oh, okay. So, really the only way this can be corrected is I don't currently have access to everybody, right? Meaning all of the partners. And I really do feel like if I had access to all of them, I could at least explain in my words, what we're trying to accomplish, and so that they would get it. Whether they buy into it or not, I don't know. But right now they don't. I mean, I think they partially have that explanation,
Okay.
But I want to say they are frustrated for good reason. I mean, the marketplace of hiring is frustrating the heck out of them, and they have every right to be frustrated. But I'm still say don't lower the bar, okay?
Yeah.
I have one other example, and this is about change is hard too. And this is a business that I do business with, and it's a wonderful business filled with lovely human beings. But I would say the good thing is a lot of them are really close. The bad thing is a lot of them are really close. And so sometimes there's too much friendship woven into the fabric of the business, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
And so you and I might be friends. You might technically be my supervisor. We go out on Friday nights. So I'm going to say, I might take liberties of speaking to you in a way that isn't exactly supervisor employee kind of,
Yep.
perfectness, if you will. But so we had made an agreement, this whole giant group, managers, workers, everybody, peers. But we had made an agreement that if anyone has an issue with anyone else, that you will take it to the person, that you won't take it to someone else. Because really taking it to somebody else is gossip, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Genuinely. You'll take it to the person. If the two of you cannot reconcile this difference, the two of you will together go to the boss. So you're not telling the boss separate stories, okay? The boss hears the same story. Or here's each of your versions.
It's a buddy system. You're making sure that you're walking in together, ironically, because you're not together, but
Right.
so that the story can be told from each angle so that nothing is lost in translation. And if a fist fight breaks out, there's somebody to stop it.
Well, here's the truth. If you're my boss, Kevin, you're my boss, I'm going to come in and tell you this story.
Okay.
Hey, Janie over there, she's not doing her job.
Deb, let me stop you right there. Hey, Janie, can you come in here real quick, please?
I want to talk to you about Janie first.
I'm your boss. Please listen to me. Janie, put the donut down. Jennifer, Janin.
Okay, Janie's here.
Get in here.
Now, what I'm going to say with Janie there and what I'm going to say with Janie standing next to me.
A little different.
So while Janie always never couldn't be, whatever, I'm going to use great catastrophic language.
Of course.
When I'm describing her if she's not there. If Janie's there, I'm going to lean into the truth probably pretty hard. And I'm going to say, sometimes Janie is on her cell phone. And when she's on her cell phone, she gets distracted. And then I have to pick up the phones for her. And I find that really annoying. Instead of Janie's always on her cell phone and she never picks up the phone.
And there are donut crumbs everywhere. And now we have ants.
So we all agreed that we didn't want to do that with each other.
Okay.
And even if you, my boss, if I have a problem with you, and you and I can't fix it,
come at me, bro.
Then together we're going to go to the next level up, and we're going to fix it. So everybody was excited about it. We did this thing called Fist to Five, which is like if everybody put up 0 or 1 or 2 fingers, it means you kind of don't agree. But if everybody holds up 5 fingers, then we all agree this is the thing. We did that. We talked about it. It was great. Okay, so that hasn't really happened, right? And there was a bit of I'm just going to say a tiny bit of a mutiny recently. And what ended up happening was people had some genuine frustrations, right? But remember, we said our new thing was transparency and one-on-one, right? But what ended up happening was a group of people got together and anonymously wrote a letter to another group of people.
Nice.
And then that group of people tried to kind of resolve it and take it to ownership.
West Side Story style?
Oh my gosh. It ended up being the exact opposite of what we were trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
I felt like we needed to call the union reps in, and there were no union reps, of course.
Just lines in the sand.
So here's my point.
Who ended up losing? Who got kicked out?
Well, we don't know. That's still in the process.
Okay.
But change is hard.
Yeah.
Even change that you're excited about, even change that you voted for, even change that you adopted with a good spirit. It is hard to look at somebody and say, this really bothers me that you do this. It's hard to look at somebody and say, you're my boss. We're supposed to start a meeting every day at 8 a.m. You're supposed to be there. You get all over my case if I'm late, and yet 3 mornings out of 5, you're late, right? That is hard.
That is hard.
But we kind of practiced it. We went over it. We agreed that it was a thing. And I'm just telling you, now we have a little bit of a mutiny on our hands.
Change is hard, but shirking from change is never the answer. Go head first into the breach one more. And oftentimes you're better for it, both as a person and as a business owner.
Yeah, for sure. And here's the thing. If you agree to do something and then later you go, this is so hard for me, I can't do it, then go to somebody you trust, in authority, with some authority hopefully, and say, I know I agreed to do this, but the reality is this is way harder than I thought, and at least get some help, get some coaching, revisit it again. But if you have agreed to do something, then that is the expectation.
You know what else is hard?
What?
when I pose two potential outcomes to you, and then you have to pick one of them in what we call Would You Rather.
Oh, would you rather? Oh, go ahead.
No Would You Rather is upset today because it's Would You Rather Thanksgiving themed Would You
Oh.
Rather. So have a nice spirit about it, Deb, and understand, because you're the most hyper-competitive person in this family all of a sudden, this is not a competition. There is no right or wrong answers. It's just your opinion, although your opinion could be wrong. Here we go. Would you rather? Would you rather have a Thanksgiving meal without your favorite side dish, or have a Thanksgiving meal with only turkey and your favorite side dish? So it's all the trimmings, all the trappings, all the accoutrement, minus the one thing you want. Or it's the one thing you want and only turkey.
Oh, that's hard. Do you want to know my favorite thing?
I would love to know.
I don't know that this is absolutely 100% my favorite thing, but the first thing that came to mind, I make really good cranberries, I think.
This is your favorite thing?
The cranberries?
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh my God. I am floored.
But wait a minute. First of all, I look and
This
I think,
could be its own segment. We're just going to debate cranberry sauce.
no, there are other people out there that are thinking
No
for
shot.
Right in, people. People love cranberries, and I like cranberries with my mashed potatoes and gravy, and with my turkey, and with my stuffing.
Okay, you like cranberries with.
Yeah.
You're not just spoon feeding cranberries into your mouth. And I will say this, Deb's cranberries are great because she actually makes the cranberry sauce. It's not like the ocean spray out of the can thing.
It doesn't happen.
It's the real cranberry sauce, though that has a place as well.
Yeah.
You like the garnish of the side dishes.
So here's what's going to happen. I am going to have all the side dishes without my cranberries.
Yeah, because it's still Thanksgiving.
Yeah. But not a perfect Thanksgiving. I mean, that was the question.
This was in like no way
Did
where
you think I was going to say stuffing or something like that?
1,000%.
Okay, first of all, let it be known for the record. Do I make the best stuffing on the
We have
planet?
talked about that ad nauseum, and
sure.
everybody who tried to make it knows
Yeah.
how freaking yummy it is.
So our stuffing is the best. That's the truth. However, I even love cranberries with a little bite of stuffing, Kev. I mean,
That is
yeah.
insane to
Yeah.
me. What an outrageous answer.
but boy, did I get there. I kind of still got a good Thanksgiving,
No,
didn't I?
you got Thanksgiving.
Yeah, there you go.
People are listening to this being like, dude, cranberry sauce sucks. You just picked the entire option.
No. I'm telling you, you know how there are people that they say like you either love cilantro or you hate it, you know, that kind of thing. The cranberry lovers are out there, and the cranberry lovers know exactly what I'm talking about.
Geez, I'm going to have to carry this question. So my favorite side dish is not stuffing, though I think stuffing is phenomenal. I think it's the best. But when we make the potatoes, we make them with so much butter and so much salt.
And cream.
It's the best tasting thing that you know is horrible for you, right? During Thanksgiving, the mashed potatoes are nothing more than a vessel for caloric, butter, salty intake. That's all they're for.
100%.
If you told me that I could have stuffing, yams, gravy,
Green bean.
green beans, turkey, and no mashed potatoes, I've experienced that before at a Thanksgiving, and it was the worst. The worst.
Was that when you had that Louisiana
Yes,
Thanksgiving?
it was. I felt like a piece of my childhood died.
That's when they put the hard-boiled eggs in the gravy, right?
It was so unbelievable to me that mashed potatoes were not at that table.
Yeah.
It was
But there was potato salad.
not the same thing.
Okay, just saying.
I would choose turkey and buttery mashed potatoes more than I would choose having a full Thanksgiving meal. I can load up those mashed potatoes, eat an entire bowl's worth, have some turkey, even if it's mediocre. But if I'm taking bites of mediocre turkey with those mashed potatoes, I am Gucci.
I'm going to tell you two things right now. All the cranberry lovers of the world have said that you've made the wrong choice. That's number one.
Well, yeah, all the niche 12 of you.
And all the people in a certain part of Louisiana, you have offended their Thanksgiving as well. I'm just saying.
You did. You're the one who said it. I didn't bring up where it was. You're the one who offended everybody. Would you rather eat Thanksgiving leftovers for an entire year
Oh, that's a long time.
or eat Thanksgiving meal and never have any leftovers?
Ooh, that's hard.
I'm telling you, this is one of those things where, depending on who you ask, some people say cold pizza is better than normal pizza, right?
Right.
I think Thanksgiving leftovers
Oh, it gets better and better for sure.
so much better. So if you're telling me that I can only have the meal itself,
Yeah.
thank God this isn't in the 50s where everything was made like an hour beforehand, hasn't
Right.
really had time to gel together. I'm going to say, I don't care that I'm going to have diabetes. I don't care that I'm going to be on the rebooted season of The Biggest Loser. I will eat Thanksgiving leftovers every day for a year rather than only being able to have it once.
So you and I, we've talked about this, I think, before on the podcast, and Thanksgiving is kind of a perfect example. Like, we would be on The Biggest Loser for sure, and we'd be on some diabetes program
Oh, yeah.
for sure. But we cut ourselves off. So Thanksgiving is on Thursday. We have the leftovers on Friday. We have the leftovers on Saturday. Whatever's left, we have on Sunday. But if there is, other than the turkey, which we'll cook down, if there are still leftovers on Sunday night, we dump them because we don't want to keep eating them.
It's true.
I mean,
That just means that we like roam and gorge ourselves until we puke.
It's not that it's that we know that food, we can't continue to eat it like that.
It's true.
We normally cook pretty well, so we don't have tons left, but we have been known to throw bits and pieces of leftover things away. On
Do you remember
Sunday
that
night,
one year? So when our garage gets really, really cold and acts like a pseudo refrigerator, do you remember that one year that we left the yams on top of the freezer and forgot about it for like 2 months? All the colors in that mold was wild.
So here's the thing. If the only thing that makes me dump that food, the only thing is that I care about my body consuming that many fat and sugar calories.
Oh, yeah.
That is the only thing that makes me dump it. And it's only because we've made an agreement too, that I abide by the agreement. If that stuff lasted 2 more weeks, I'd keep eating it for sure.
Totally.
I mean, a year, I think I have to go for the year of leftovers for sure.
That's the right answer.
As long as it includes the cranberries.
Would you rather keep a wild turkey as a pet for a year or have to kill the turkey that you kept as a pet for a month?
I'm gonna keep the turkey for a year.
For a year?
I'll keep the turkey.
Wild turkey?
Yeah, I think, listen, it started out wild.
Deb, those things are freaking mean.
I know it's going to scream at me every time I go in the backyard. We're going to work something out. I just think it would be so hard. Like, I've got to kill it, Kevin, me?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, so picture this. It's been there for a month. You say, go get it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to come screeching at me or flapping wings or whatever they do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that what they do?
Yeah, they do what geese do. They get like their neck low and they kind of charge at you.
Okay, so I'm going to let a wild turkey charge at me.
Well, I mean, you've had it for a month, so it might be comfortable with you.
Oh, well, that makes it even worse.
I know.
Like if I've given it hugs, if we got to that place.
Listen, what you do with it for the month is entirely up to you. If you decide that you want to give the thing little huggers before you go to bed.
I'm going to have like wounds on me from killing this bird.
Not if you shoot it.
Shoot it. I don't have a gun.
Well, I mean, you should probably go get one or you're going to have to chop its neck off and watch it run around the backyard.
Well, I think people break their necks, don't they?
I have no idea.
I've
never looked into killing turkeys.
Okay, so I can't do any
Well,
of
no,
that.
I think people just shoot them with shotguns.
Well, we know people that do that listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
But we don't, they're not killing turkeys they know.
That's true. They don't have a name for them and they don't give them hugs at night.
Exactly. They're killing turkeys that just wander on their property.
So then if you keep a wild turkey as a pet for a year and you have to give it up after the year, where does it go? You just let it back out in the wilderness?
I think you go to a place and you convince yourself it's going to be safe there and that you let it go.
And then it follows you home?
That would be the hope at that point.
The neighborhood coyotes eat it?
No, yeah. Don't take it to West Virginia. People go turkey hunting there a lot.
What if you knew everything that you were feeding it was going to make it taste that much better?
No. You're making up questions now.
No, I'm just asking you, like, what if
Oh.
you knew that? What if if you
Listen.
were able to give it all these beautiful nuts and berries and it was going to taste like all these beautiful nuts and berries and they were organic and you knew that it was going to be the best tasting spatchcocked turkey that you've ever had?
No, not if I felt like it was pet-like. You know, one of the things
Just don't give a collar. Don't give it a collar and don't put a leash on it and walk it around the neighborhood being like,
exactly.
this is a preview of dinner.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. I think one of the things about 4-H, where these kids have to raise, you know, all these different animals, I think one of the things they learn is to give those animals to somebody that might kill them, or do you know what I mean? Like, they have to learn to part with the animal. I mean, they tell them don't name the animal. I think that's true. I don't know if that's true. But no, I can't kill.
Of course, the
can't
answer is
kill
keep
it.
the turkey as a pet
Of
for a year.
course,
Nobody in this house can
yeah.
kill anything.
No,
we
no.
keep wild birds alive.
Of course.
There's
We're
no
not gonna
way
kill
that
the
we're going to kill a turkey.
We're not going to kill the turkey.
Would you rather have Thanksgiving at a chain restaurant like a Chili's or at a stranger's house?
At a stranger's house.
No way.
Well, I mean,
I've had Thanksgiving at a stranger's house, and we still talk about there being no mashed potatoes years later.
So, are we saying that Chili's is doing a version of Thanksgiving?
Chili's, Applebee's, Outback
I'll go out.
Steakhouse.
We haven't gone to those kind of places, but we've gone out for Thanksgiving dinner before.
But they've been nice Thanksgiving dinners.
They've been very nice Thanksgiving dinners. And I will say, I still will cook a little, what I want to call it, kind of a small little Thanksgiving side. So there's stuff for us later.
Side question: why did we start like there was like 3 or 4 years in a row that we started doing Thanksgiving at like nice casino restaurants, right?
Well, we only did it at a nice casino restaurant like once. We did go over to San Francisco. We used to stay at the St.
Was it just because
Francis.
you didn't want to cook anymore?
No, it was when we first moved to Reno and we didn't have family here and it was just the 3 of us. So you were little, you believed in Santa. So we would drive over to San Francisco. We'd have a beautiful dinner. We usually went to the St. Francis and then we would take you to see Santa at Macy's the next day and all that. It was great.
Interesting. Here's what I know about a chain restaurant. The food itself might be okay. It might be passable. And even if they said, and we can make everything gluten-free.
Yeah.
Could you imagine sitting down at a Chili's for Thanksgiving?
No.
And that's no shot at anybody that's going to Chili's for Thanksgiving
And it's
or
not even
Applebee's or
It's not
Outback.
even a shot at Chili's. Yeah.
Can you just fathom getting out of your car, walking up to the hostess stand and her being like, great, we're going to sit you in the high tops next to the bar with the
Exactly.
game playing and like the 9 guys who don't talk to their family during Thanksgiving because they're all degenerate alcoholics, which is why they're at Chili's on Thanksgiving. And then just being the waitress coming over and you ordering a Diet Coke fountain drink, or if you're feeling, really crazy, like a speckled strawberry lemonade, and then asking if you guys want any appetizers. And you're like, well, are there any Thanksgiving themed appetizers? They're like, well, we shove some turkey and mashed potatoes into an egg roll and we fry it and we can bring it out to you in some cranberry dipping sauce, which sounds great.
But it's not. Yeah.
That depresses my soul.
No, I agree. I mean, I will say the restaurants we've gone to are very nice restaurants.
Totally.
And they have been all about doing the whole theme of Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? Like the restaurant really is done up beautifully and all of that. I will say even with that, there's been, especially if we did it from home, there's a titch of heartache when I come back home and there aren't all those leftovers and the smells in the house and all that kind of stuff. So, for me, not so much.
I think the reason you picked the stranger's house, and I know that I gave you a hard time because you said the stranger's house, but it's because it's a snap decision and I always want you to think about
I was just hoping there was a good Thanksgiving there.
What I think if you go to a stranger's house, and this is what I mean, it's kind of like you were out shopping and somebody said, hey, I know this is random, but we're getting a small group together. We would love for you and your family to come. This is just like the nicety of the season. And you come back home and you look at Dad and I and you're like, I don't want to cook. And these people offered and they seem to be reasonable. The reason I would say let's go to the stranger's house, you have no idea what to expect. It could be an absolute freak show.
But it could be fabulous.
It could be amazing.
Too.
I could be able to live out
fabulous.
my childhood dreams of like playing 2-hand touch football before the birds carved.
Exactly.
I think you roll the dice on either it being chaos or it being the best thing in the world. And if it's either of those, you win.
Hey, it's going to be the best story no matter what. I mean, if it is a complete chaos,
Yeah.
nightmare, everything goes wrong. That's a great story. And if you're playing touch football and everybody loves each other and giving each other high fives and the beautiful bird comes out, that's a great story too, right?
Absolutely. All right, Deb, as we wind this Monday episode on Thanksgiving week down, why don't you tell me what you're thankful for? This is the most applicable thankful of the year. We're thankful on Thanksgiving week. What are you thankful for?
Oh, you just put so much importance on this.
I mean,
thankful.
it's got to be. Every other week, we're just being nice people. But now we are with the masses, and our thankfuls have to stand out. What are you thankful for?
Okay, it's a combination thankful.
Oh, nice.
All right. So we are thankful that Daddy is doing well.
Yep.
And we are thankful that he's managing. He just had a couple radiation treatments,
Yep.
and he's having immunotherapy. So we are thankful that Daddy is with us and that he's well and that we're going to have Thanksgiving dinner together. Okay?
Yep.
But the one I'm going to couple with that, I got a couple of weeks ago the sweetest text from a girl named Abby in Ohio. You know Abby.
I do.
Abby reached out to us about a year ago, and she had Googled, what was it?
Patient advocacy.
Patient advocacy. And our podcast came up
Random.
because we had discussed it one time. Abby listened to it, loved it. Then Abby started listening to us. Then Abby DM'd you. And you were like, hey, this girl is so sweet. Listen to this. And you're reading me everything. And I'm like, oh, I feel like we should talk to Abby. And you're like, I mean, Mom, do you really want to open that door?
Well, what I said is she doesn't want to talk to me. She wants to talk to you.
Yeah. And do you really want to open that door? And it's not like we're famous or anything. I mean, there's nothing.
This podcast does make millions of dollars, though.
But I said, send Abby my phone number. And we both looked at each other like, ugh, is this the right thing to do?
Yeah.
And Abby and I talked, and I want to say, like, her mom was diagnosed with cancer just about a year ago this time. Abby has stayed on our journey with us, and Abby's mom is still on her cancer journey. Abby is lovely. Abby has not abused the phone number
True.
in any way, shape, or form. Abby texts me periodically. I love hearing from her. I love it that we could provide some, I'm going to say, kind of simpatico comfort with her because we were going through the same thing. But she just sent me a text and said, hey, it was just a year ago. My mom was diagnosed. And so I just found you. I found you guys right away. And that, the kitchen table talk, if you will, which is what we talked about in the beginning, like provides me comfort and makes me happy. And nothing, if there is no other reason ever to do this podcast, it's for Abby and people like Abby, because I am so grateful for her. I'm grateful for her mother. Her mother is in our prayers. And I just feel like that we were supposed to meet, and there wouldn't be any other way but this podcast.
So if you feel alone or if you feel like you're battling through something, chances are there is a mother and son podcast out there talking about your exact thing. So know that you're not alone. And if they're as nice as we are, reach out to them and you can probably talk to them.
Probably, yeah. So I'm grateful for Abby and for her mom and for everything on the podcast that led to that.
So keeping up with Deb saying all the sweet things about family and how wonderful it is that we can help change somebody else's life through this podcast, I'm going to make it all about me.
Of course.
I'm thankful, not because I go to a gym with a bunch of old people who infuriate me. They infuriate me. It's an irrational anger. I possess my own emotions. I'm in charge of my own emotions. But this group of people makes me want to rage out, minus this older couple. And they showed up a couple months ago. She's a very good-looking older woman. I would say they're in their late 70s, early 80s. She's trim. She is well put together, sweet face, like super angelic. And it's clear that her husband has suffered some type of stroke, right? So he comes to the gym to do a version of what I'm assuming is physical therapy. And he has a personal trainer with him, and the personal trainer is really just kind of a support for him to be able to do some of the exercises. And while he's working out, the wife has her own personal trainer, and she's like, she's not like going balls to the wall sweating, but she's working out to the
Yeah.
best of her ability, right? Because she's taking her husband here. So she says, while I'm here, I might as well benefit myself too. That old guy is so nice. And he has seen me a handful of times. And every time he sees me, he looks at his trainer and he goes, one day I'm going to be like that guy.
Oh.
And he's like, I'm sure when they were younger, they were just like the it couple, and not like in the pretentious, mean way, but like in the, they're smart, they're collected, they have their stuff together, just like kind, sweet spirits. And so whenever I see him, I give him a wave and he says, I'm getting one day closer to you, or something along those lines. And so it softens my heart. It makes me feel like I'm a bad person because I am.
Yep.
And it is something that I at least look forward to, because in some bizarro way, I feel like I'm helping him on whatever his journey is. So
you're being an inspiration for him. You're not a terrible person.
Thank you.
I mean, not completely.
Debatable.
Yeah. But I love that story. What I do want to say is there's still the it couple of their age group.
1,000%.
I mean, that's the thing about that couple. And then the other part is, Kev, feel free to invite him home for Thanksgiving dinner if you want.
Sold.
Okay.
Hey, guess what? Deb's going to cook for dinner. It's going to be Thanksgiving. We're giving her the night off. We're eating nothing but fast food prior to Thanksgiving. We have no photos of what we're going to cook this week, other than we'll share our Thanksgiving photos and nice plates of it, because Lord knows when we ask Deb what's for dinner, it is a ball of anxiety for her. And we have the dinner of all dinners for the year coming up, and that's what she's going to cook for dinner, as well as all the leftovers for the next 4 days. You good with that?
I'm good with that.
And that means that's going to do it for this Monday's episode of the Deb and Kev podcast. Remember to like, rate, and review wherever you listen to this podcast. It is the season of giving, and give us 5 stars. That felt selfish.
Ooh, but that's a